Let's jump right into this explainer. When we think about education, we usually picture a graduation cap, right? Like it's just this great personal milestone. But if we pull back and look at the big picture, education is actually one of the most powerful economic investments a nation can make. Today, we're going to dig into the actual data and the underlying structures that prove learning is a highly quantifiable, massive engine of national economic growth.
Our agenda today is broken down into three main parts. First, the Human Capital Foundation. Second, the Education Portfolio. And third, the six-part ROI.
Kicking things off with Section 1, the Human Capital Foundation. Before we can truly grasp the value of education, we have to know exactly what we're investing in. The crucial distinction here is between physical and human capital. Physical capital relies on all that man-made stuff, the tools, the machinery, the massive factory floors. But human capital? That is the vital stock of knowledge, ability, skill, and physical capacity held within the people themselves at any given time. Think about it. A multi-million-dollar factory sits completely silent and totally useless without the human capital to actually run it. By investing in people through education, we aren't just helping individuals, we're fundamentally building our most productive resource.
Moving right along to Section 2, the Education Portfolio.
We don't just learn in one single rigid way. Think of it like an investment portfolio with three very distinct pillars. First up is formal education. This is the systematic, organized schooling we all know. Schools, colleges, fixed curriculums, the whole 9 yards. But then there's non-formal education, which is equally crucial. This happens outside that standard system. It has a flexible curriculum tailored for vulnerable groups. Think children living in slums or migrant workers, where learning is brought directly to them through voluntary or evening schools. It's a real game changer for those who can't access a traditional classroom. And finally, we have informal education. This is the lifelong, experiential learning we absorb every single day from our homes, our workplaces, and our social environments.
And what's really wild about this informal tier is the massive role of media. We are constantly soaking up information through the radio or television. In fact, just by sitting here and watching this explainer right now, you are actively engaging in the informal education system. You're expanding your own human capital without having to sit in a stuffy university lecture hall. It just goes to show that education is this ambient, around-the-clock process. Okay, so we understand the investment side of things. We know we're building human capital through formal, non-formal, and informal channels. But how exactly does this learning portfolio translate into real national economic growth? What is the actual, tangible return on investment here?
That brings us perfectly to Section 3, the six-part ROI.
We're going to break these down, starting with the cognitive and practical dividends paid out by our educational investments. This is how education fundamentally rewires our daily output.
Our very first return on investment is developing a scientific outlook. Education literally widens our mental horizons. It replaces old, static mindsets with sharp, rational thinking, which is absolutely crucial for developing adaptable values and personalities. And that pairs perfectly with our second return, raising efficiency. Education makes a massive contribution to overall productivity by driving science and technology forward. When you combine that new, rational outlook with hardcore tech know-how, you get a workforce that doesn't just work harder, they work significantly smarter.
But hey, the returns don't stop at the office door. Next, we're looking at the labor and civic upgrades.
Contribution number 3 is acquiring basic job skills. Super straightforward, right? But it's vital. Education gives people the essential talents they need to actually function in a modern workplace. But then there's this incredible ripple effect, which is return number 4, increasing public participation. Education doesn't just churn out workers, it creates highly engaged citizens. Educated folks become much more conscious of their civic responsibilities. They vote, they organize, and they actively participate in the developmental activities that drive their country forward.
Finally, we hit the ultimate returns, the grand societal upgrades. This is the macro-level impact that literally elevates an entire nation.
Return number 5 is ensuring equity and social justice. Education is practically our best tool for this. By giving everyday folks better educational access, we enable them to earn higher incomes, which fundamentally chips away at poverty and systemic inequality. And that leads directly into our crowning achievement, return number 6, a massive improvement in the quality of life. Education is a strictly necessary input for better living. It translates into real, lasting improvements in health, hygiene, and life expectancy. the economic growth literally transforms into human flourishing.
So, as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with something to chew on. We've just walked through this undeniable 6-part ROI, from skyrocketing efficiency to reducing poverty. Now, we already pour massive resources into formal schools and universities, which is great. But look back at our entire portfolio. Knowing that non-formal education is what reaches our most vulnerable and informal education shapes all of us every single day, ask yourself, where should our future investments actually go to truly maximize our economic growth? Thanks for joining me for this explainer, and keep learning.